Hey, Jen, thank you so much for coming on eCommerce Insiders, the journey to success. Thrilled to have you on today.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to
Ab-
it.
Absolutely. I think there's going to have a great conversation, a lot of value for our listeners. Before we dive into the weeds, why don't we give a little backstory about who you are and how you got started in this world?
All right. I am from a family of entrepreneurs. I grew up with my dad being in construction. I grew up with business around me always. And now I work in my family business that I run with my mom, LaVigne Naturals Skincare. And we're in the Vancouver area. We've been making skincare in Canada since 2003. So just a little over 20 years now.
Tried and
Um,
true.
yeah. So, always been surrounded by business and entrepreneurship. I think it's all I've ever known. And then I married someone who grew up the very same too. So, we both have businesses now. My husband actually has a custom cabinet company and renovations business. So, it's a big part of our
Interesting.
family life, I guess.
Just ingrained in you. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. So a lot of the people I speak to, they have that background, and myself included. My father was an entrepreneur, small business, never really scaled, but supported a family very well with what he did. And but you don't usually hear about both husband and wife being involved in their own businesses. You want to shed a little light on how you guys are able to kind of piggyback the requirements to sustain a business at that level?
As a husband and wife, as our family, I think that having it been what we've always known, I think we
Mhm.
both have a comfort level. Like perhaps if my husband had come from a more what would you call regular job 9 to 5 type of situation, then maybe he would have a different understanding with business than I do. But he had the very same. His family, for his father's whole life, had a mechanic shop in Perth,
Awesome.
Australia. So he grew up with that the same way that I grew up with my dad in construction, and so I guess that's just normal. We make little jokes about what it would have been like if one of us had chosen just a sort of straightforward career path and how things might have been simpler. But I think it also comes down to personality. We are both pretty great problem solvers, troubleshooters. We're pretty creative. We're different in other ways. Like I'm a real thinker, analytical, kind of hold back person, check things out. And my husband is
Mhm.
a real, like, go get it, novelty, check it out. Like, we joke that if we bought something new, I'd be reading the manual and he would have used it 10 times already. So, in that way, I think we complement each other. But yeah, I think we both just grew up really used to parents being self-employed and what comes with that.
Right. I love it. Yeah, there's definitely a risk taker kind of figure it out approach to the whole world of entrepreneurship. And from the sounds of it, at 20 years with Levine, it sounds like you guys are figuring it out. I mean, going through all of those trials and tribulations, successes. I mean, 20 years is a long time to be in business. So before getting into the nitty gritty of exactly what you guys create, what you sell, knowing that you're working with your mother on this, I'd love to know a little bit about the backstory on how did she start it, and then how did you get involved into the business?
Sure. Actually, I mentioned construction before. It initially came from that. My parents ended up living in Mexico for a short time related to a construction project, and that is actually where Linda, my mom, the founder, where she came across the key ingredient that she ended up forming the whole company around.
Wow.
So they were living there. She was in a marketplace and bought a product that contained this tree bark ingredient. It's called Tepescoite. Um, it's not something that people in Canada and the US know very much about unless perhaps they have a Latin background.
Hmm.
But when she asked the locals about it, the comments were things like, this stuff is a miracle for the skin. And
Wow.
so she just got really excited about the idea of sharing this amazing ingredient for the skin with the masses. And initially, she had the idea of bringing a product into Canada, but just the way that the manufacturing and the just the way things are made, natural health products and skincare products are made here is a lot different than the product that she had initially found. So she ended up sourcing the
Okay.
raw ingredient, the Tepescohuite tree bark, and making the first product from there, which is our hero product. It's called Mayan Magic Balm.
Wow.
From the beginning, from that first product and that first ingredient, then became a whole company that focused around like ancient ingredients with amazing results. So that's now not the only botanical ingredient that we use in our products, and the company grew around that, from that one product to over 20 now, from that one product being a sort of a multi-purpose cream that you can use on
Mm-hmm.
a multitude of skin concerns and dryness and irritations. But also from there, it went into an entire skincare line for your daily face regime, cleanser, moisturizer, an amazing vitamin C serum. I mean, you can imagine in 20 years, it's grown a lot.
For sure. As well as I'm sure many testings done to get to those final products. And I'd love to just make a note of that so we can go to that part of the conversation. But
Hmm.
I love talking to people, especially business owners, entrepreneurs who are like this one event is what triggered the story of the business.
Hmm.
Spoke with someone last week, same scenario, and it's just remarkable hearing about like this trip to Mexico that then turned into what you guys have today. Is just those stories are the best.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what life's going to bring you. That was a chunk of time that it was one time in life that they were there, and look what it became. And
Right.
it's just such a beautiful compliment to the way that we love to live as well. Like I grew up with my mom taking me to every like natural health store, bookstores, looking at personal development stuff. Like she's always been into a healthy lifestyle. I've spent a lot of time with her, watching her research different things before the company was ever born. This is
Sure.
always her personal passion.
Yeah.
And then
That's
this thing
amazing.
ended up in front of her, and it all went
That's
from
so
there.
cool. That's amazing. So from then, just a little continuous history, just because I'm a curious person by nature. How long did that process take from identifying this tree bark
Hmm.
and the benefits and all the value for the potential consumers to going back to Canada, identifying how we're going to manufacturing? Like, what did that timeline take your mother in actually creating LaVigne Skincare?
I was just thinking about this. I don't think I've thought about that exact time period. The first products were born in about mid 2003,
Okay.
and I would say on a guesstimate here, it was somewhere between 12 and 18 months, kind of
Wow.
leading up to that and figuring out it was going to be where she's making her own product line with that ingredient. I believe, as with many people who design and produce new products, there was some discarding of
Of
first
course.
efforts and things like that. The R&D, which is all really her. That's her side of things. But yeah, there definitely was some trials and tribulations in the very beginning. Even
Mhm.
that hero product, the packaging over time has changed. I think in the very beginning it was in metal containers, and it didn't work with the type of cream that was inside. The
Mm.
lids didn't work, and I've seen it go through. It could be a whole slideshow of what the
Different
product first looked
iterations.
like. Yes, different iterations, exactly.
Very cool. So, I mean, 12 to 18 months, though, in the grand scheme of things, she really took this idea and just ran with it then. I mean, 12 months, a
Hmm.
year time is not a super long period of time to get something started. So, that's just really cool to hear kind of the drive behind the story.
Yeah, and it was so cute too. I'm trying to think. That was the year that I met my husband in 2003. She had created the first product, and I was working in hospitality at the time. And I have memories of going and showing it to like my friends at work and our customers and stuff. And people were I think I sold a couple dozen of them to friends and stuff like that. Like when I think about the small beginnings of it, it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
adorable.
Yep.
And then in 2004, I left and went to Australia to see about a guy. I went to see where my husband was from, and during that time, 2004, 5, 6 till the beginning of 2007 is when I joined her in the business. So I was 3 years overseas and came back, and then there were many products, and there was export happening, and some local retailers. So it's an interesting conversation when you say to your parent, "Do you want to hire me? But you don't have to."
Right.
But I could help, but like,
Right.
don't feel obligated. So awkward, but it seems to be working out because it's been like 16 years or something. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from 2003 to 2007, she did that, and then you came in. It's now 2024, so it seems to be working pretty well there.
it's, we work really well together. It's great.
One, I just spoke with actually a client of ours. We featured him on the podcast a few weeks back, and he runs a family business, and we had talked about that. And a lot of what he said is the only reason that it works is they all kind of have their silos that they work
Hmm.
within, so that there's no true overlap of like you have two creative directors. It's you have the finance family member, you have the creative family member, you have the and he was like that we all are working to the same goal, but everyone has their piece of the pie that they're working within.
Yeah,
Is that similar nature and what and how you guys have been able to accomplish what you've done in this time frame?
100%. This has come up recently. We've been at some women's entrepreneur like networking type events, and we've been asked. It just seems to be we've been asked a lot lately about that,
Hmm.
about how we work together, and exactly that. Like my mom is the R&D. She's the creative. Like she has that creative passion about the products and everything. And I don't know if I always knew that I was like this, but it's becoming more solidified for me now, more clear that I know that I enjoy analytical tasks. I enjoy
Hmm.
the ops stuff of which I have many elements of the
Hmm.
business that I have to touch on, but I like that stuff, and she likes what she does.
Yep.
And similar to what I was saying actually about my husband as well, that the go forth, that energy of trying new things, she's really great at that. And
Hmm.
I find I'm always wanting to research and analyze and sort of risk assess, and not that it's not like I'm fearful to try things, but just I feel
Right.
like I'm my period of wanting to research things,
Hmm.
and analyze different channels and things like that is longer, where
Right.
I think there's a pretty cool um, personality trait for someone to just be willing to go try something new. She's an early
Yep.
adopter of anything, any new software, new anything.
Yeah.
So we balance each other out that way.
And I think you need both in business, right? Even for
Yeah.
at our agency, I have a business partner here who is definitely more the operations, the finance will want to double check things before pulling the trigger. Where if it was up to me and just a blank check, I'd pull the trigger on everything, which never works well in business ever.
Yeah.
So to the audience, do not test everything. Please do your due diligence prior to. But
Hmm.
it's critical. It is very important to have both sides to kind of balance things.
Yeah, I think it's been essential for sure.
Yep. So then coming in 2007, coming in with the goal to help your mother grow this business,
Hmm.
what were kind of some of the first just macro things that when you came back from Australia, right? So you're kind of removed from the situation for a period of time. What were
Hmm.
some of those first hurdles, for people in business who were kind of maybe just starting out? What were some of those things, if you can recall, that were those priorities to say, like, okay, hey, here's where we are. And if we potentially do X, Y, and Z, here's where the growth trajectory might look.
Well, I think it was a bit of a stock take in terms of
Mm,
looking at what the marketing looked like, what just sort of bringing everything together in terms of the brand look. Um,
mhm,
not really, not say that the design exactly, but just sort of, what am I trying to say? That like having all of the products look the exact same, like the branding more tight. Um,
mhm,
the products had been born sort of one at a time, and they each had their own style. And there was even products that we currently don't have. That's a whole other conversation, that sometimes you let
Mhm.
things go along the way. But just trying to immerse myself, take my training, which is actually in a professional writing background
Oh,
of
awesome.
all kinds, like business writing, everything from marketing stuff to manual writing to. So I had sort of the skills behind the brand creation and everything, but I'm not a designer. So
Right.
it's just trying to take stock of what I was coming into, what the goal of it all was, who we were selling to, how could we amplify that, where could we find more of those current interested and
Mhm.
engaged customers. Trying to just find my feet, I guess. I'm not sure if I've
Yep.
been asked that before. It's interesting to think back to that, coming in and saying, I'm pretty sure I can help you, and then trying to figure out, how do I help first? Where am I?
Right.
What's my title? That was fun. So,
Was it one of those
yeah,
ones you get to make up in the
yeah,
beginning? Yeah,
yeah,
I love it.
100%.
Yeah, every small
So,
business owner. It's like, I don't know.
so I
Yeah,
mean, this is a long time ago now, but yeah, just looking
right,
at all the different products, and I wasn't the creator of products, so I'm just trying to immerse myself
right.
and make sure I understand what the goals are, which I
Yep,
guess
I
is
love
like
it,
anyone coming into a new job with a new brand.
for sure. There's so much to figure out. I mean, you have the finances, you have the marketing, you have the R&D to, like you said, you have the manufacturing, inventory. I mean, there's so many facets.
Mhm.
Um, at what point did you guys, or has it always been e-commerce focused, or you had mentioned at one point just some retail,
Mhm.
knowing 2007, the internet wasn't really a thing yet, at least not to the scope that it is today. I think Facebook just launched in 2006,
Mhm.
2005, 2006. Um, what did those early years look like, and how much has that evolved over time?
The early years, we she already had in place some export to places like Hong Kong and a little bit Europe. Also, there was always a website from
Mhm.
way back. So I'm sure we've had multiple iterations of it at this point, but there
Yep.
was always ecom from the beginning. We dabbled in doing some trade shows. I think in places we did Portland, there was like a lifestyle, natural lifestyle type of show that we went to for a couple years,
Mhm.
including during 2008 when everything was pretty challenging. So
Yep.
it's like we did
Fun
this show
times.
one year, and it was the most amazing audience, and everybody was so amped up, and lots of people were interested in buying products. We went back the next year, and it was a little dismal. I mean, people
Yep.
are going through really hard times at that time in '08,
Yep.
'09. So
Yeah, those
we've
were
been
not
to,
fun.
yeah, no, we've been to sort of green lifestyle shows in San Francisco over the years a couple times. We've tried different things. It's always
Mhm.
been a mix of the direct to consumer and also some retail. The retail was very small, like the retailers in Canada and the US, it was a small number in the beginning. And then around 2010, 2011, we started marketing a starter kit of our products.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
it began, well, kind of everything that we've become from then till now. So we created this starter kit. We started doing some phone sales to retailers. I gave up. First, I had written the script because I came in and I was doing all these different things for the company. So I
Mhm.
gave the script to started out with to part time. Like inside salespeople, and
Sure.
then to full time, and then multiple full time, and it grew from
Wow.
there. And that went from having two really lovely retailers in the Vancouver area to, okay, then like 50 in the province, and then the next province, and the next province. And then we started going to trade shows in Toronto and Vancouver, where the ideal retailers
Right.
um, would be able to come and see our products, and or that maybe they tried one product from our line, and they would come and see, I mean, it's so common every show, people will come along and say, I didn't know you had all of this, because there's way
Right.
more than one or two products at this point.
Right.
So it started really small with that retailer base, that just looking at what were the characteristics of the ones that we were succeeding in, and then just trying to build upon that. But then really,
Wow.
isn't that's what business is, right?
Yeah.
You focus on what's
Figure out some
working and figure out how
yeah,
to grow it.
exactly. That's really it's great. I was speaking with another e-com owner who says he does still 50% of his revenue based on retail, independent retailers. That was his, part of his focus. Um, so then fast forwarding a little bit, what are some of the things, obviously like the last 4 or 5 years have been just an interesting time. I know we had briefly discussed COVID. So you have this hybrid model of retail, uh, sales reps, and always e-commerce. I commend you and your mom Linda for having that foresight back in 2004 to have a website. I mean, like it was so new. It's like, what do we do? Um, how has that evolution shifted from those retail to a focus on online? Your website, obviously, it looks fantastic. Product descriptions, the photos, the
Thank you.
branding, everything there tells me that there's been a lot of work done on that front. So, what has been that evolution from those mid 2012 to getting the product, the branding, and more of that D2C space for our audience?
So the journey from 2000, say you just threw out 2012, when I think back to then, we were super excited that we had a rebrand,
Mm,
which is gone now.
right.
We changed it again in 2022, but we had this lovely sort of French look that was very well embraced. The retailers that were carrying our products were really excited to see the line come together under this new branding. We were growing. It was like every couple months, like another 50 whatever 100 new retailers. We ended up getting to somewhere around it's a bit hard to measure at the moment because we have distribution who are also selling to
Mhm.
retailers for us. So somewhere over 700 retailers
Wow.
in Canada and the US. We say about 90-10, so about 90% uh, to retail and about 10% e-com, to be honest. And
Mhm.
the e-com, the D2C is growing now. So
Yep.
I'd say 10 is a bit harsh. Like I'd say it's probably getting more to like 15-ish to 20, but really retailer heavy.
Yep.
And then the actual geographically, that it's about 90-10 as well, for 90% Canada and about 10% US. And we
Okay.
have some plans to work on that this year. That's a whole other conversation, but we're looking at some trade shows and focusing on a region of the United States coming up here in the next few
Awesome.
months. So within that, then the 90% selling to retail and the bulk of our operations being focused around the model of making the products, shipping them from here in Vancouver, having an inside sales team, and all the admin support and everything. Now I'm taking you up to about 2019 or so, um, just growing and growing and growing. And then everybody has that fun story of, and then the pandemic hit. And what
Yep.
happened there? I mean, for us, we had some interesting packaging situations, like lid manufacturers started making PPE. We couldn't get our lids for a bit. Where there's just certain packaging in that were the containers for very high selling products for us that we almost couldn't get for a while. Like
Wow.
it's a big challenge when things like that happen. Other things like our retailers, we're selling to a lot of. It's a much bigger mix now, but at that time, a huge percentage of our retailers were like independent natural health
Yep.
retailers. And what happened with them is that many of them either closed due to staffing or other reasons or limitations put upon them by the pandemic and the health regulations. So
Yep.
variety of them being closed or losing staff or having staff uncomfortable serving the public, or they had to pare down their staff and say that store sold health products like natural foods, vitamins, and health and beauty. If they had to pare them down, they often kept the vitamin supplement person.
Yep.
The general grocery, okay, that was they could have general staff for that. But if they had to pick between the health and beauty and the vitamins and supplement person, they were hiring like the holistic nutritionist that
Right.
can talk to people about vitamins. So that
Yep.
was a lot of them lost that person who used to stand there and hold up our products and and say that they had
recommend.
customers have amazing stories with it and all this, and that
Yep.
person was gone.
Wow.
There are also, I don't know what occurred where you were, but there were stores that were not allowed to sell non-essentials. So there's actually like an inability to turn over product that weren't essential items
Yep.
during the pandemic, and staffing challenges. You know, how
Yep.
do you keep on your dedicated staff that sell to stores that are now closed? And to get out of the negativity, because I don't like to stay there too long. Really, like, some great things came along. We found the ones that were really dedicated to our products. We have stores that have been carrying our products for well over a decade or longer
Yep.
now. After some challenges, we have a current team that is just amazing. I can say that, like, I love everybody I work with, and everybody is so willing to sort of pitch in outside of
Yep.
their own role. We have adaptable people here who are like,
Yep.
oh yeah, if I finish what I'm doing, I'll help you with that. Or you get scrappy. You get
Yep.
into just doing what you have to do to make things work.
Yep. And you hit it right on the head. I mean, scrappy, nimble, duck and
Yeah.
weave. There are so many different, you have to. I mean, even, we have our PPC manager, but they're all doing something else. Like, there has to be some kind of, you have to wear multiple hats. It's key.
Hmm.
Touched on so many amazing things. It's crazy. We're in South Florida, so we did not experience the COVID pandemic in many similarities to a lot of other people. Florida was a bit different, but not to say we work with companies all over the country and Canada, and so not to say we didn't hear and feel what was going on elsewhere. We just didn't necessarily see it firsthand per se. And it's interesting, the e-commerce model from a marketing perspective grew exponentially during the pandemic, because what did everyone do? They were on Facebook and Instagram every single day because no one was working, and they were at their houses. But having that hybrid model of retail, I mean, I can only imagine kind of the frantic nature of what that brought from a business. And I commend you, and I'd love to know now, how did you pivot from that? Right? Because like you said, I mean, kind of a really bad time. So coming out of the pandemic, seeing what you guys have accomplished up to this point and what this new branding looks like, how did you come out of that period with kind of the vigor to say, like, hey, like, we're still in business, we still have a great product, we have a great brand. How did you come out of that with the excitement to kind of keep going? Because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs feel like you're just keeping your head above water, and sometimes you just have to figure out how to get that extra breath to kind of keep going.
I have so many answers.
I love it.
To keep going, always the reviews. We've had the most amazing stories. We had a woman call us about 6 months ago and say, are you a place could I come by? I just want to tell you guys something. You're thinking, what? She came and it was the most awesome thing. She brought us this big box of fancy pastries and wanted to show us pictures of what had happened. She had something happen with her skin that created a reaction. She ended up with something like dermatitis or eczema all over her face. And she wanted us to have the photos and, like, just sort of block out identifying stuff about
Sure.
her. But she was very passionate about making sure that we understood what a difference our product, Mayan Magic,
Wow.
had for her. And I mean, when stuff like that happens, when you're having a bad day and you remember that somebody, their life was changed, whether they felt like they could go out in public or not go
Yep.
out in public, was changed by your product. So if I'm having a heavy day or feeling particularly challenged, I'll just pull up some of my favorite things that I've seen said about the products. Another thing that I do is I try to focus on, if I'm feeling stuck or challenged, what's one thing I can
Mhm.
do, because I tend to, again, with that analytical brain, I can come up with 99 possibilities, and then I potentially could freeze, because then you don't confuse
Right.
yourself and don't know what to do.
Sure.
And I will just try to figure out one step to move
Yep.
forward. And I'm not afraid to say that. I know a lot of people get stuck. And if I
Yeah.
can leave that with somebody, it's like, just push yourself for just one thing for now, and tomorrow, one more thing.
Yep.
And another amazing thing that I heard was a very simple question. Again, we were talked about how we both love podcasts. I was listening to this
Mhm.
podcast about leadership, and it's such a simple question. What is the goal? So when you're stuck and you're evaluating different elements of something and different possible choices, and I ask myself that, it sharpens what is needed. It
Yep.
brings it right to the surface. And so that's been really helpful. So those are things that I try to keep in mind when feeling stuck or challenged. You also asked what we did during that time of challenges for our retailers. So we stayed in conversation with them as best we could.
Mhm.
Many of them stopped picking up the phone, which makes it really hard to talk to somebody.
Right.
They literally would just let it go to voicemail. The bigger retailers would say they actually weren't allowed to pick up the phone because
Wow.
they were pared down, and they needed to be, the ones on the floor needed to be available to walking in customers. So
Sure.
um, it was very hard to talk to them, but when we did, we tried to listen to what they were doing and what they needed. And many retailers who probably thought they were just fine and never going to have a website were getting
Mhm.
online. They were trying to set up e-commerce for their entire contents of the store because there was all this curbside pickup and all of that.
Yep.
So what we did, the technical side of it, is that we went digital with a lot of the stuff that used to be paper form. So the whole QR code, the having a digital brochure, and we have a little card now by the products where they scan the QR code and they get the entire menu of our products, and which is also really cool. If they're looking at one product from your line and they see that it can make a face regime with your product
Yep.
line, then everybody's learning. Whether it was
Yep.
the staff member in the store, okay, again with the losing staff and all of this happening during the pandemic, they had new staff
Right.
who now didn't know our product line. So
And
having
need to be
that QR code,
re-educated. Yep.
we had scenarios where they would say a customer came in, asked a question, and either the staff member or the customer can take their phone, scan the code, read about the product, and
Yep.
educate themselves. So just getting as best we could with how we could serve them with the digital and otherwise tools that we could offer. We got
Yep.
better at presenting our own information because buyers just didn't have as much time because of losing staff.
Right.
They're really like, they had so much on their plate. It's like, how can I give you the key points of our brand in the simplest way possible that will make it as clear for you to determine whether you think our brand is a match for you or not. It's just
Right.
making everything go as smooth as possible in that experience, in the buying experience, in the information, the teaching. Like we have video tutorials about our products. We got way better at our digital.
Yeah. It's amazing, like, I think it was Elon Musk said it's if you set a 5-year goal, it'll take you 5 years to potentially get there or not. Or if you set that 5-year goal and you try to do it within 1 year, you might not get there, but you'll be a lot closer. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the pandemic did that for a lot of brands. It was kind of like this shit moment where it's like we need to figure this out faster than we ever could have imagined we needed to figure this out. And so you're able to accomplish so much more in a shorter period of time than as if it was just regular day to day as we always usually go through things.
I totally agree. These one day ideas just become like, for survival, we're doing this right now.
Right.
Um, for us, we had products that were selling a little less than other products, and this is a hard thing to deal with. When you know that even though something sells less than the rest, and then say the top 5 or 10 products, but it also it's a super important product to the people
Hmm.
who love it. It's a time for tough decisions, and we've
Yep.
cut a couple of things from our line, and there, you never know, we could bring them back. There's no reason that
Of
we
course.
couldn't. But again, getting scrappy with the pandemic, just looking at what is selling, what do we need to make sure we have lots of, and
Right.
what is less of a priority these
Yep.
days. And my personal nature is I hate letting down those customers that wanted that
Yeah.
product. I really dislike that part. But
Yep.
also I know that the majority We're here for the majority of the customers who really want to see our company grow and thrive so they can keep buying those products and enjoying them for their lifestyle. And
Right.
to do that, we had to make some tough decisions.
Yeah. From a marketing perspective, though, it opens the door to huge opportunities down the road, right? So with email marketing and different things, and I know you guys are using Clavio, um, having that ability to do limited release product drops on previous products, you send them out to the people, and optimizing for that. We always try to recommend that. We had a client do that last year. There's a product that was being discontinued, and we sent out an email blast, and that product sold out in like 2.5 days, and that was it. But it's just thinking about things like that from an e-commerce perspective opens up so many ideas to like, okay, hey, you release these every 6 months, something like that, because I know for e-commerce, inventory management is so challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And the forecasting along with the inventory is potentially even more challenging. Knowing what to have in stock and what to start putting together to make sure that fulfillment does not kind of stop.
It's cash on the shelf. Like
Right.
you do not want to have scores of product that you hope is going to pick up soon. Like we need
Right.
to be turning over the absolute essentials. And it used to be for us, the hero product was miles and miles and miles away from the rest of the products. It's still quite far in first place, but
Hmm.
these past few years, as we've done more teaching with our product line and had a different way of approaching things with retailers and also direct to consumer, we have many more top runners. It's
Sure.
not so much like that now. And that's been interesting to see too. And I think
Yeah.
that for the business person listening, like brand owners, really getting to teach people about the importance of your products and why, and just we've gotten so much better at showing them like the whole regime, not just
Hmm.
our super popular vitamin C serum. People in skincare, people know they want a vitamin C serum, they know why they want it, but now we're really teaching about the products that go along with it. And
Yep.
obviously it's going to be great for overall sales and overall brand awareness when people start to know you for many things, not just one thing, in my opinion.
Oh, and I completely agree with you. We've worked with like one store products before, and it's kind of, it works. But to have products that even, let's say, 10 out of the 20 are driving most of the revenue, instead of saying this one product is driving 80%, it makes it a little bit more, you have a better foundation to potentially take some risks, make some decisions, instead of being so reliant on that one product's cash flow to stay in business. Now you're spread
Mm-hmm.
across multiple products. I think it also bodes extremely well to most likely the quality that Linda is going and doing through the R&D when you have multiple kind of flagship products that are working
Mm-hmm.
extremely well.
Yeah, I totally agree. People are, for how passionate people are about our Mayan Magic Balm, which could be for anybody with super dry skin, anyone who either has issues or so many people have a relative who deals
Yep.
with stuff like this. So it's such a wide market. But then you look at the people who are interested in healthy aging for their skin, like taking care of their skin over their lifetime and wanting it to be as nourished and as best as it can be. They're looking at things like our vitamin C and our liminal face oil, and those are the key products to them.
Yep.
So, an interesting thing, and I know this is what you do, but the target persona is
Hmm.
can be very challenging. I've had brand strategists say, well, no, you have to be able to pare it down. It really, at the end of the day, it's kind of one kind of person, and the more specific you can get on that, the better. But then
Hmm.
that doesn't feel like how our business is. So we have that sort of everybody dry skin type of client that might be any age.
Yep.
We have the around 30s person who they know they want to get better with their
Yep.
skincare. They want to start using some healthy products. They've heard there's toxins in products. They want to get away from that and try to make good choices. We're here for them, and we have a skin quiz. It helps you figure out what you want to do for a daily regime. Then we also have sort of the more mature skin user who they've tried, say, over the last 20 years or so, they've tried a lot of different things,
Yep.
and they want to know what is different about our line and why is it so nourishing. We actually had a woman call in. She's 98, and she said she's been using our products for 20 years. We have her phone number. Linda talked to her the other day to wish her a
Oh,
happy birthday, and
oh,
you
that's
know, we
so cool.
it's so cool. She's in Ontario. Um, and you know, so we have those sort of, that's three personas. It doesn't feel
Right.
that straightforward to market to one type of person.
Yeah, no, there's definitely you don't have to. And I think that's the key. I mean, so a lot of what we do, I mean, we have a product. Let's just say we have one product, right? But there's two different value propositions. Maybe it's price point, maybe it's something else, quality, right? It's
Hmm.
great quality for a good price point or whatever those two scenarios may be. Well, those are two different people, but we're advertising the same product. But the key is to have the either ad, the creative, or the ad copy, or both, to speak to those two separate people. And we're advertising to those two separate people. And I think
Hmm.
that's really key. I mean, right? Like you can't just say you're selling to one person all the time. It just doesn't work like that. People find benefits in products that are different than others. I mean, it's just simple nature of human interests, right? My iPhone might work really well for phone calls for me, but for my wife, it's the best camera phone in the world, right? It's the same product. We use it in two different ways. So it's just being able to speak to those two different ways. And from a
Hmm.
targeting perspective, men 30 to 45, women 30 to 45, and those two ads get two different targeting options. I think that's the beauty of what digital marketing is done, opposed to years ago. I got my start in traditional media, which was like print and magazines. You're just targeting the audience who sees the magazine. So the
Hmm.
messaging had to be very concise to whoever was reading Forbes or whatever.
Hmm.
With social media now, you can quickly just have two different ad copies, two different ads, target two different people, and see which one works better.
Yeah, and we're working on some of that now, um, putting out three different sections, different types of ads, sort of
Yeah,
based on those different personas, the best matching product
right.
to each of those personas. We also have
Yeah.
a theory that because we're mother daughter, we think that
Mm-hmm.
part of the audience sort of replicates me. Not that people meet me all the time or anything, 'cause it's not that, but
Right.
maybe just, and maybe the following coming from people we knew, or whatever it is. But we feel like part of the audience is people that are sort of my age group, and then some of
Right.
them are sort of my mom's age group, and so it could have stemmed a little bit from that too,
For sure.
but hard to
And I
know.
think yeah, and that's just where the testing comes in, becomes just really critical, and just being able to track those KPIs to identify, hey, this audience, this persona is working really well. Like our client briefs, we have primary audiences and secondary audiences, and it's like
Hmm.
those each of those have different targeting options. It's so important because no one, you'd be the best brand strategist in the world, you still might get it wrong.
Hmm.
You still might get it wrong. So I advise you to test.
This came up
Just
yesterday in a
test.
conversation with somebody else. This topic of, I feel like we need to do more testing.
Yeah. So then
Yeah.
it's a great segue. What are you guys currently doing for kind of increasing that D2C growth that you guys are, you said you were 90/10 in the beginning, and working to get more of that market share on the online space. What are some of the things you guys are working on or planning on for 2024?
Well, we're staying active on all platforms, everything from TikTok, Facebook. We have a Facebook group. We have Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, all of it. Our YouTube
Awesome.
channel, very cute, small beginnings. I remember trying to get the 100 subscribers on your YouTube channel so that you can have
Mm-hmm.
your own URL, or
Yep.
however that works.
Yep.
That has grown. I think our subscribers on YouTube, they're only about triple what they were back then. But hey, we're getting somewhere, and
Right.
it's a great spot to put out product education and
Yep.
UGC videos and little things from us, like trade shows and different things that we've got going on. So that's a good one. So active on all those platforms. We have our eye out for sort of one-time content creators or UGC people. I mean, like anyone, like any brand, we just get a massive influx all the time of people that saw
Yep.
our TikTok account or whatever and want to make content. But we're looking for the people who match these personas.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just not going to make sense if there's somebody talking about a product that we have that has peptides and is amazing for fine lines and wrinkles, and they're somebody who has none of that. So
Yeah.
we have to be careful. I saw a brand in my ads actually get ripped apart a little bit recently. It said, how am I supposed to determine that whether this young woman who has no wrinkles can tell me about how this affects wrinkles? So we're
Right.
careful with the UGC partnerships. We have a couple partnerships with recurring ones that we think are great people to have working with our brand. We're been looking at our KPIs a little more closely. That feels a little bit embarrassing. Always, I would have loved to be looking at the KPIs perfectly, but I have
Right.
a million things on my desk. And
Of course.
so we're getting more help with these types of things and started measuring at least 10 to 20 different points in our analytics and have been doing that continually for about the past 9 months or so. And
Yep.
now I have a sense of where
Right.
we're getting people, where we're losing people, our bounce rate, the conversion, all of it. Like, that would be my advice to somebody listening to this, is if you're not sure where to start, just start. If you
Yep.
have to look up what 10 things should I measure and then make that list and just write them down on the same day at the end of every month and just try. Because
Yep.
I thought that we didn't know, but it didn't take long to figure it out by
Yep.
looking at the end of each month what changed, what seems to be consistent. We're still getting a lot of audience on Facebook.
Yep.
I know everybody talks about TikTok, and TikTok is amazing. I've had some wonderful things happen from being on TikTok. But Facebook, we have a lot of people coming through there. And the Klaviyo, we switched to them about 18 months ago. Super happy with that. We were using a different email program before. The segmentation, which is what I had heard from people for so long before it took me this long it's probably a couple of years, I don't know, before someone came to us and offered to set it all up with Klaviyo and get the flows and everything. And that was fabulous because I was going to do it one day. I was going to get somebody on our team to implement this one day, and then it was done.
Yep.
So the Klaviyo, all the different social media formats, the website, our blog, we created a lifestyle blog, and we have guest bloggers come on and talk about what we believe our audience is interested in, whether it's natural health, holistic nutrition, self-advocacy, self-care, all these types of personal development things and natural lifestyle articles. And we have experts come on the blog, create something, it links back to their socials and whatever they're working on. And that's been another great way for us to find new audience.
That's amazing. And it sounds like a lot of just story building, brand building. I mean, to start building up the content's so important. That's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we have YouTube channels. All of that is everyone can buy a product, but they can buy into a story. And so if you're able to figure out how to build that story and tell it through content, whether written, if you guys are doing lifestyle, I mean, that's fantastic. It doesn't need to be the how-tos or this or that. It can be more of the storytelling behind the brand and the products. And that's really just where you build that community that will continue to support you. I
I
love it.
agree. I think sometimes if you get stuck, I think you just really need to look back at who is spending money on your brand and why. And so we have done a couple of brand surveys over the last couple of years, and we try not to pester people with too many questions, or they're just not going to answer them. They're going to click off. But we make it as simple as possible, perhaps include a prize or a thank you coupon or something, and ask them what's important to them. Why are they buying our products? Where did they hear about them? We had a huge percentage of people say it was word of mouth, either friend or family or a person in a retail store have we've heard people say someone took the product off the shelf and just said, take this, because we have a
Wow.
100% satisfaction guarantee. Like, just take
Okay.
this and try it. I swear you got to try this product.
Wow.
So word of mouth, running a brand survey, learning about, besides, I mean, you know this, besides our products, when they're not using our products, what else are they doing?
Yep.
Well, they love to read, and they like yoga, and they like hiking and forests and all these different things. We wanted a sense of, also for the blog, like, how can we cater to our
Right.
audience all of
I
their
love it.
sort of natural health interests? So that's been a big part of it, is the brand surveying.
That's awesome. I mean, it's just phenomenal advice. Understanding the audience, catering to them, and then providing the absolute best product for them. I mean, you can't get a better winning combination.
I think we do well on our customer service. I do get that feedback.
Hmm.
There's been quite a few shocked emails when somebody, they had a misunderstanding or something, and they send a rant email. And the type of, I mean, I told you in the beginning, I'm a writer, right? That's
Hmm.
what I went to school for, and what it's part of my personal interest from a long time ago. When I write people back, I often get, first of all, I didn't know I was going to get such a human response. They're
Right.
shocked, and the response time and the solution. And that's something also actually that came out of the pandemic is, did you notice what happened to how ecom had to look after their customers? It used
Right.
to be, oh, if you send the product back, has to be like this, has to be like that. Now it's like, sorry, here's your money back. And
Yeah.
that's not free for a
Right.
brand, but
Right.
that's what we have to meet. That's the requirement these days. That is the stage that people are, when they buy something online, there's a lot more expectation from the brand now.
You're spot on with that. It's such an interesting pivot because I find that retail, if I walk into a Best Buy, it is probably the worst customer
Mm-hmm.
experience that I've ever had. And then I go shopping online and there's a shipping problem or something, and I go on and like I'm getting responses faster than I can find somebody at Best Buy. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just very interesting, like the pivot from, you used to maybe get some VA in India who's trying to talk to you about your problem with an e-commerce brand, to now these customer service being a core principle or core part of an e-commerce brand. That switch has been kind of remarkable to see, just being in the industry for 15 years now.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. And it's been, I mean, if only it was free to provide an incredible level of customer service. Like, we've
Yep.
had some stress points around it too,
Of course.
but also we want to provide like a beautiful and premium customer experience.
Yep.
And that's just in our nature. That's what we want to provide ourselves. So, I mean, I can think of one story. About a year ago, there was a woman, I think in Texas, who had placed an online order, and she put the last digit of her address, her house number, she put like a 5 instead of a 6 or something
Mm.
like that. We sent it there. It went missing. It never made it. And honestly, adore her. It was her fault, and
Right.
it cost us on the shipping, and she placed an order that was free shipping, which is not free shipping. That's brand
Right.
pays for the shipping. And I can
Correct.
tell you happily that she has ordered from us 5 times
Yep.
since. We made
Amazing.
that right. We had to pay
Right.
for shipping it to her twice.
Yep.
I can't even
As well as the
remember if we
products.
were able to locate the original package. It was a disaster.
Yep.
And she is a repeat buyer. And so sometimes you have to suck it up, and it's terrible, but it could work out really great in the end.
Yep. And I think from the e-commerce perspective, people should be thinking longer term than that initial purchase. It has to be about the relationship, and from the financial side of it, the lifetime value of a customer. Are you willing to lose that 50, 60, $80, whatever that package cost, in order to retain a customer that now, let's say, $100 average order value, spending $600 with you? So it's like
Yeah.
brands, businesses, especially starting out, I find that e-commerce owners focus on that first purchase being the, you know, tunnel focus on that. And yes, it's critical because you're bringing in revenue and cash flow, but you have to think about the longevity of John Smith. How many times are you going to be purchasing? And are you willing to maybe go a little bit above and beyond to make sure John Smith keeps purchasing?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of a couple other skincare companies besides ours. Perhaps a few. I mean, if
Yep.
somebody takes the time to go on our website and read the brand story about how my mom decided to start this product line and where it's grown to and all the amazing reviews you can see, whether it's Google or our website or Facebook, they've taken the time. I can see too. We can see on the live chat when someone's talking to us where
Mm-hmm.
they are on the website, and I'm giving them little tips back, and I can see they're hopping from page to page and reading and reading. We tend to attract a customer that educates themselves, that really
Mm.
cares what they're putting on their skin.
Yep.
And, we want to provide an experience in line with that customer's needs and expectations and the brand culture that they're looking for.
I love it. It's phenomenal. And it looks like you guys are doing a great job, and it sounds like you guys definitely know what you're doing. Um, this has been a phenomenal conversation. We're already coming up on an hour. As we're wrapping up the show, I know. I'd love to know, as you're pivoting more into the world of e-commerce, or at least trying to increase that while growing and maintaining the retail side, what advice would you give to an e-com owner who's kind of still in that early stage figure it out phase of business? I'd love to have your insights on that.
Well, my personal experience would be that I feel like I said in the beginning, that you look at where even if it's been a small amount of sales, where did they come from? What is working well? And they
Mhm.
say there's that saying of like measure or focus on what you want more of. So
Mhm.
look at what's working. Look in your marketplace. Pay attention to if there's a trend with the way certain brands or health and beauty products, say in my case, how are they being presented? What do the images look like online? Like, look around in your market and see what's succeeding.
Yep.
And then also reach out, like connect with people.
Yeah.
In tough points in business, I always joke, like, I'll call anyone,
Mhm.
good or bad, I guess. But for me, I believe I've been very honest at tough points and reached out to people on LinkedIn
Yep.
in different places and networks that I'm in and said, I'm struggling around this area. Do you have anything? I'm feeling a bit stuck. Do you have any advice, or could you point me in any direction? Do you know how much people want to help? It's
For sure.
amazing.
Yep.
I've had somebody who their actual role is a fractional, like a COO, and
Mhm.
so they charge for this a
Yep.
lot per hour, but spent an hour with me because I just asked kindly for
Yep.
help and
Yep.
offered if there was anything I could help back with. So being
Right.
connected, reaching out, don't keep blinders on and stay in your own place, in your own business, in your tiny team. Even because we're talking about someone starting out, get
Yep.
out there and try to get amongst people doing the same or similar things. See what you can learn and ask questions.
Yeah, I think that is the best advice. That I've been stuck in the trap of up here, and I've also utilized networks and communities and coaches, and you can just get the answers so much faster than beating your head against the wall or making mistakes. Phenomenal advice.
Great,
So,
thanks.
if you could give everybody a rundown of where can people find you guys, where can they follow you on social, where can they order your products from?
Our website is lavignenaturals.com. LaVigne spelt the French Canadian way, LaVigne. LaVigne Naturals, we are in Canada. We're sold on well.ca. We're sold in a number of retailers that you can find in a store locator on our website. We're ever growing in the United States, so I hope you're going to see more and more retailers there soon. A couple of our products are on Amazon in Canada and the US, and yeah, just growing all the time. So we're always looking for more retail partnerships, whether it be bricks and mortar or online. And we do offer sample kits to be sent out. So anyone who's interested can feel free to reach out. We're also at LaVigne Naturals on all the social platforms.
Awesome. We will leave links to all of those in the show notes and in the description in YouTube. Jen, it was an absolute pleasure today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Awesome.